Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me bright and early on this Saturday morning. My name is Victoria Wilson Anamudu, and I am this year's treasurer for SF Hacks. I'm a third-year student at SF State majoring in computer science and applied math. This year, SF Hacks will be hosting a Black in Tech panel, which will be held tomorrow at 10 a.m., and our panelists will walk us through their diverse backgrounds and share their journeys, challenges, and successes within the tech industry. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker for our panel, Uche Egonu. Where's Uche? Here he is. Everyone, let's welcome Uche. So a little bit of background information about him. Uche is currently a software engineer and team lead at Omada Health, headquartered in San Francisco. Omada is a digital health tech company that focuses on cardiometabolic health issues. Uche attended Tufts University in Boston, where he studied political science and computer science. He interned at social impact tech companies based on the intersections of his interests. After college, he worked in Washington, D.C. for a government tech advisory firm in a business development capacity. He later moved to Omada to further his career in engineering. In addition to his work as an engineer, Uche leads many diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at Omada and is involved in Black tech organizations like DevColor and Code 2040. So the way this is going to work today is that the first 15 minutes, Uche will give his speech, and then we will save the last 15 minutes for a Q&A. Uche, the floor is yours.
Hey, y'all. It is so great to be here with you today for this hackathon. The last hackathon I had in college was one of the highlights of my CS undergrad career. Even though I did honestly get so tired, I fell asleep in the middle while talking to a friend. It's great though to see that y'all have this spread over 3 days. Much nicer. When asked about this keynote, I racked my brain a little to think about what I'd want to talk about. Really, when I was in your position, I was thinking a lot about the excitement, but also the anxiety I had about what my career would look like post-graduation. What I thought I'd do today is talk to y'all about some of the concerns I had when I was in your shoes and some of the lessons I've learned now to combat those fears. I hope that in talking about this, any one of y'all that might be feeling that anxiety about starting your career can feel more empowered with that next step. It's a process, but you pick up quite a few lessons on the way. One of the biggest concerns that I had at the start of my career, and especially before it began, was that I'm not good enough at programming. It's the classic imposter syndrome issue, something that I still deal with, even though I continue to progress and grow. There's a litany of great advice on tackling imposter syndrome and methods for reframing these thoughts. However, one thing that has really helped me keep myself in check was the simple lesson that you don't need to know everything. It is okay to have all of the questions and feel like you have everything to learn. With imposter syndrome, I always felt like someone was going to judge me for my lack of knowledge of X systems engineering principle, or that asking a question would prompt someone to reevaluate my skills. However, when you're starting your career, people expect that you have questions and that you're unsure of where to start. Now is the perfect time to pick someone's brain, seek mentors, ask for resources on subjects that you're unfamiliar with. You would be surprised how many people are excited to share their favorite code style books and blog posts. It seems scary at first, but there are many engineers that would love the chance to share their years of knowledge and experience with you. Take advantage of that. Ask all of your questions. With that, those gaps of knowledge that you were scared about become not only places that you grow in, but also points of connection with you and the more senior members of your team. Another thing that I struggled with when I was going through college was thinking about what I wanted to do with my career. Where did I want to start? Did I want to do DevOps, security, backend, front end? Did I even want to write code? What skills should I be learning now to make sure that I could get a job in the right field? So I'm a big planner. That's one thing about me. And so this is a huge issue for me. If any of y'all are interested in astrology at all, I have quite a few Capricorn placements. So I need everything to be organized. And that says a lot about me. I thought I needed all those questions answered in order to be prepared. What I quickly learned in industry is that you don't have to have it all figured out. You have time. You will be exposed to so much as you start your career, and will learn more about your interests and your strengths. Take the time and the opportunity to explore and challenge yourself often. So I actually have a friend who has grown her interest in creative coding while working as a UX engineer. In creative coding, she's really been working in the intersection of art and technology and a little bit of music. She's even a little famous on TikTok. She recently took a course on this subject and exhibited her work in a gallery space in San Francisco. One of the privileges we have in this industry is a strong emphasis on learning and development that allows you to do things like that, allows you to challenge yourself, take those risks, and learn what you think you wanted to do could be different from what you're actually interested in. You can pursue new challenges and your path will change with every opportunity. To facilitate this growth for me personally, I like to have coffee chats with people who have roles that I'm interested in or have skills that I want to learn. I ask them about their journeys into those roles and how they became experts in their domains. Through chatting with people, I've also learned about how nonlinear career paths can be. People transition from careers in local government to engineering management with many stops in between. As dire as things may feel right now, in college especially, I know that can be very true. I hope you all know that you have room to breathe. With the last two lessons I shared, I referenced reaching out and connections quite a bit. I really like to underscore that because something that is always floated around as career advice is the art of networking. If y'all haven't heard it already, you will continue to hear it throughout your career. Networking is key. And as a college student, I only somewhat knew what this looked like. But it's talked about so much for a reason. It is an invaluable tool in growing your career. However, I like to amend the advice a little bit, and I recommend going past networking and instead seeking community. Networking ends up being this loaded term that comes off sometimes as transactional, but the foundation of it is truly relationship building. When you look for communities in this industry, you naturally form relationships and you also gain a place that feels comfortable for you in tech. That does a lot for you, more than you might even realize. I've built a lot of community for myself in this industry through my identities. Black tech organizations like DevColor and Code 2040 have made me so much more empowered to be an engineer. In these spaces, I found mentors that have helped me navigate compensation questions, personal finance, promotions. I've also formed friendships with people that I know I can talk about professional growth with, as well as talk about, the latest episode of Real Housewives, depending on the franchise. These are like my actual friends, but I also know that I can lean on them for professional support when needed. Community can be built around many connecting points, though, not just identity. Different programming languages have robust communities. Ruby, for example, has a pretty strong one. In my job, we work primarily in Ruby on Rails, and a lot of the engineers are seasoned Rubyists who engage with many people on forums and conferences and have built out strong friendships and networks just through their love of the language. Same thing with Go. I know quite a few people that are very interested in that and have built communities with that. Do know some people that have some communities with Rust, but I don't know how many people are actually doing that. However, you can also build community with coworkers on your team or others in your organization. When you come to a new team, like there are other people that are there that are wanting to learn and grow in their careers. I know folks on my team and in my organization that have built their own communities out of learning and development by creating learning groups and teaching each other about Rails, about systems engineering principles. And through that, they've grown together and learned those subjects, but have also created that community and created more bonds with each other across teams. When seeking out or even building these spaces, you reap the benefits of networking while also building out support systems. So that is why I actually have a very big emphasis that I like to place on community building. As y'all continue to apply to jobs, work on projects, and take classes, I hope that the lessons I've learned and shared can fill y'all with some optimism about your next steps. Are there challenges with starting a career in tech? Yes, I would be lying here if I said there weren't. However, this industry isn't as unwelcoming as the daunting algorithm interview questions make it seem. Don't worry, you're not alone. We all hate those coding challenges. I still hate them. I've learned a lot about the work that interests me as an engineer and where I want to take my career. I've also had the chance to grow into leadership roles that I didn't know were on the horizon for me. I didn't always have confidence about my career in tech. We get in our heads a lot, and it is so easy to diminish our capabilities and achievements. Y'all right now have incredible achievements that you're doing in college. Just y'all being in these spaces and being at community events like these hackathons, you all are extremely capable and going to make large impacts in the technical community. That impact starts to get cultivated at events like this. The people you work with and that you bond with here can also be the same ones who you're practicing interviewing with, getting advice from on how to negotiate pay, and planning your career roadmaps with. I personally cannot wait for y'all to start your careers and add to the cultural fibers of the tech industry. When you do, though, and you start to learn from all of your experiences, collect your lessons and share them down to the next generation. We all can use that helping hand to break down barriers and access to this industry and create the inclusive environment that we want to see. And that is what I had to share with y'all today. hope that you all have an amazing hackathon and excited to learn more about the projects that you build.
Thank you so much, Uche. That was amazing. So now it's going to be time for questions. Feel free to take yourself off mute or use the chat box for any questions you have for our speaker. I'll give everyone a few seconds.
Sorry, I feel like I have a question, but like I'm just reading through everything to like process it because like your speech was like amazing. So like maybe I'll need more than a few seconds.
Okay, I'll give y'all some time, no worries.
Thanks. That was really nice to hear. And yeah, as you all are thinking about questions and things, feel free to ask literally anything about starting your career, some of the challenges, what my journey looked like, and everything like that. I am an open book, and I love to talk about these things.
Okay.
I think I might have a question. Sorry, unless Victoria, do you have one? Victoria, you can go ahead.
No, you're good, Kevin. You could go ahead.
So I'm not even sure if so what advice would you give, I guess, to any of these upcoming students who would want to ascend the career ladder, maybe in more leadership slash career based slash more influencing roles? Because a lot of us are still students, and so I feel like you will probably have a great opinion of what advice to give someone to ascend like their career ladder.
Yeah. I think there are a couple things that I would really have it for advice there. One, going back to that idea of like relationships and community is a really big focus on mentors. Mentors are so helpful for letting you be able to see a glimpse of what you might want, but also helping you figure out what are the skills and the competencies that you might need to learn in order to get to where you want to be. It is a great idea to actually look for mentors in roles and spaces that you want to be in. I have a couple of mentors myself that I know that I'm really interested in engineering management. And so I asked these people about what are their thoughts on some of the skills needed for engineering management, some of the lessons that I would like to learn. And I've gotten a lot of advice, even gotten books to read here. My current director actually sent me a book for my birthday that she was like, this will be for you. Also, in addition to mentorship, I think another thing that I think it's important to think about when you're interested in leadership is learning what type of leader you want to be. You will have a number of like managers and directors and other folks that you see in your organization, and you will see some of how they lead, what like traits they have and things like that. Learn a little bit about what do you really like in this manager and what can you learn from them? What do you want to take that also matches up with who you are? Because when you become a leader, you still want to be your full self. And so you can take different pieces of advice and learnings from others while understanding what also plays to your strengths. So those would probably be the two biggest things that I would have about when you're thinking about leadership and how to get to that path. And that's still something I'm learning too.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That really helps. Yeah. I guess I have one more question. And this is something that, because I was also in one of our panels yesterday, and I think it's something that's nice to sort of see from a perspective of a person who's already in their career is and I'm not sure if this was already answered during your speech, just because there's a lot of great information, but if you could kind of go back in time and tell your younger college/high school self something, what would you say? What advice would you give them, or what thing would you tell them yourself?
Yeah, I think the the lessons that I shared in the speech were probably the biggest things that I would really tell my younger self. But one of them in particular that I think I would really focus on for myself was that idea of like you have time to figure things out. I was always so caught up in thinking that I had to know exactly what I wanted, and that if I don't build out the perfect career path and chart out exactly what skills I need to learn to get to that path, that I would be set up incorrectly. But you have a lot of time to figure things out. And although it can feel like everything is like touch and go right now and in a rush, like at the end of the day, you're in the beginning of your career. Like you're able to pick up new things and learn new things, and you should give yourself that space to be able to do so. I think is probably the biggest thing that I would tell myself, because especially as you go from one phase of your life to the other, like you might have, you become a senior in college and you're like, okay, I'm at the top of the ladder. I know what I need to know. But in the grand scheme of things, like you're still starting out, and um, it is fair to think of yourself as new. So that is probably the biggest thing that I would really tell myself.
Awesome. Thank you. Really insightful. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I had a question. Oh, if you, I love the advice and everything. I was wondering, I think you touched upon kind of figuring out what specific field you want to go into. And I'd imagine a lot of people like myself are always wondering, like, should I go into like, let's say backend, you were talking about DevOps, security, all these different fields. Do you think that we should kind of try to hone in on maybe specific ones, or to try to keep our options open at this stage of our life?
Yeah, so this is my personal advice. I know many different people can have different thoughts on this, but I'm always a big fan of keeping your options open. I think it is important to think about like your interests and think about what skills you might want to learn to align more to your interests. But many different people change things as they grow. For example, I left college thinking that I was like, I know I'm going to do security. I was like, I'm going to do application security. This is going to be it. I'm going to have a career in security engineering, and I'll take that as far as it goes. And then I became really interested in product engineering. And for me, that was like working backend systems. I became really interested in data management and things like that. And I didn't think I was going to be. I actually thought I hated that in college. So I am a big fan of like keeping your options open and taking the time to learn. You have that opportunity when you're starting your career. So really try and learn as much as possible and try different things.
Thank you.
I have a question. For those of us who are looking for internship experience, what is some advice you give them in like the internship hunt and like securing an internship?
Yeah, so, okay, I'll start off with securing an internship. The first thing that comes to mind is, and y'all probably already know this, practice, practice, practice for those technical interviews. A lot of it really is just getting good at taking them, like taking the SAT. Leak code, HackerRank, they become your best friends. But like, in addition to that, I think things that I really would recommend is starting to think about first, are there things that you want to learn or industries that you want to get some exposure to? and start making lists of those and look for internships there, just because internships can be the best way of figuring out what you might want for your career or like where you might want to grow. And so being able to get as much exposure to things that you're interested in and is really great. The next thing that I would say on securing internships is also become very familiar with LinkedIn. It is a really powerful tool, especially when it comes to networking, when it comes to reaching out to people. You would actually, again, be surprised about how many people are willing to just have coffee chats with you about what it's like at their company. That is something that I did when I was applying to internships and full-time jobs, is honestly just reached out to people. I reached out, for me specifically, I reached out to folks at companies that I was interested in that went to my school, because then I had a common connection point with them as alums. And I was like, kind of led that into like just learning a little bit more about their company. So LinkedIn, I think, and coffee chats, yeah, definitely are really powerful tools. And then the next thing about like when you're at your internship, the biggest thing I think is just learning, understanding that an internship is a forum for you to just learn, to grow, to try all sorts of things. At my first internship, I was a backend, it was a backend engineering internship where I was like Ruby on Rails, but towards the end of it, I was like, hey, I want to try out a little bit of mobile. And I ended up working in like Android mobile for a little bit, talking to product people for a little bit. Take the time to learn, try a bunch of things in internships, ask for opportunities, and really reach out to people to just chat. Literally, whoever in the company that you're interested in talking to and learning more about their careers, that is a place for you to really take the opportunity to just soak everything in.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. All right. Do we have any other last minute questions? No? Okay. We'll go ahead and end it here. But before we do that, I want to take a group photo.